Afternoon, folks. Be with you in a minute. Just sort Facebook out. See, we have a problem, can I? Should be updating on my phone. See if we can sort it out this way. Yep. Okay, that's Facebook sorted out. Shut a couple of these boxes down. Good afternoon, folks. A few minutes for the Facebookers to get on board. We'll have a wee look who's in. Who we got today? Got Rebecca McDougall, Aki's Mad, Wolf Pet, Wee Bird, Ginger Giraffe. Hi, Gingers. How's things in America this morning? Wolf Pet, Gary Forbes. We've got Stephen Bank here. Now, let's see if we get any Facebookers in yet. Nah. Hi, Derek. Hi, Davey. Dare say Dylan's there somewhere as well. Hi, Nancy. I was speaking to Naz this morning. We'll go on with that in a minute once the Facebookers are in. Hi, Lorna. Hi, Melanie. Hi, Tina. Hi, Kirsty. Hi, John. Eddie. Our numbers are climbing nicely, folks. We're nearly there. A couple of announcements to make. Let's have a look. On Saturday coming, I'll be doing an interview with this fella here, Naz Anas Maha, or Ma, Naz Anas Ma, who has been selected to run for Douglas Chapman's seat. Douglas Chapman standing down. So that'll be this Saturday at 12 o'clock noon. Okay. I'll be having a chat with him. And hi, John, how are you? Long time no see. I'll take that down again. So that should be an interesting one, folks, and I'm going to try and keep this rolling. Get as many prospective MPs, sitting MPs at the moment, and MSPs to come on, see if I can get one on a week, see what we can do. Okay. I spoke to him this morning, Nancy. Seems like a really nice fella. Now, I'm sorry about the quality of the light today, folks, in my office here. I don't know what it is. It just seems to be pretty crap today, the light. Anyway, so let's get on with this because we've got up over 100 now. So we've got it's the Two Davies on the 18th of the 2nd, 2024, minus a Davy. That's the other announcement I'm making. The other Davy will be back on Thursday, apparently. So it should be back to being the Two Davies, but as there's only one Davy a day, this will be done in the style of Indie Truck Davy. So it's Indie Truck Davy out the truck, not home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, but it's not a bad day. And 14 degrees, partially sunny, not bad. That's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. If you want to know what the weather's like where you are, look who you're in, bloody windy. And maybe drop a comment in so I can see the weather's like where you are. All right, first up, Saturday, of course, we know that the SNP had a meeting in Perth, a campaign meeting. They're really starting to wrap things up. And of course, Humza tells the delegates that this is a chance to wipe the Tories off the face of the earth here in Scotland. And of course, front and centre in that manifesto will state a vote for the SNP is a vote for independence. Anyway, First Minister had a busy weekend because he was on the James O'Brien podcast, and that went really well. And then on Sunday, he was on the state propaganda machine, and their frontman, Martin Geisler, He gets into the First Minister about taxes, about policing, about drugs deaths, and tells the First Minister he's failing. The First Minister, of course, disagrees with him. And then Martin Geisler tries to convince the First Minister that he's actually taking his party backwards and that Labour are coming up on them in the polls. And the First Minister has to tell Geisler, look, pick a poll you want, but the latest one shows the gap between us and Labour is getting bigger again. So he wasn't wearing it. It was quite a feisty interview. And when Martin really went on about high taxes, you know, the only people on about taxation here in Scotland are the people in bloody the state propaganda machine and those in bloody England. The rest of us, we don't mind paying taxes to get half decent public services. We haven't lost a link between how public services are financed and how they work. We don't mind paying that extra couple of pence if it means we Mrs. McGlumford doesn't need to pay £8 for a prescription charge. We don't mind paying a couple of quid if it means Benny round the corner's grandson can go to university for nothing. We don't mind. So, we've got guys like on about tax. You know, there's no point in that. Policing. Crime's still at a 44-year low. Although we have to say petty crime, especially shoplifting, is on the rise after 14 years of austerity and people can't afford to feed their families and heat their houses. So petty crime's on the way up. And then he gets into him about drug deaths. Well, I've explained this one. It doesn't need much explaining. We've had 14 years of Tory austerity. We're about to get into a decade of Labour austerity. And coming through in the back of that is people who are self-medicating with alcohol and drugs to escape the fucking misery of everyday life in this broken Brexit Britain. Thanks, Ackies. We'll make sure it gets to the right places. As I say, we've got a fresh cohort of these people coming through who have been self-medicating to escape their miserable lives for the last 14 years. And there's no drug deaths and incidents of drug abuse are not just on their way up here in Scotland. They are on their way up right across these islands for the very reason that I have mentioned. Now, why people can't correlate poverty and misery to self-medication, I have no idea. But drug deaths right across these islands will be on the way up. As more and more people self-medicate to escape the misery of everyday life and the punitive benefit system that's been set up. Thanks, Alistair. Thanks, really appreciate that. I'll get out the door. Now, as I say, and why Hoomser didn't hit him with that? I don't know. Stephen, you're right, mental health and suicide deaths are up. People are trying to escape the misery of their lives under 14 years of this broken, fucking Tory austerity-based government. A policy that has done nothing but drive more people into poverty. Although Hoomser does point out to Martin Geisler, the state propaganda's front man, that actually we managed to have 100,000 people out of fucking poverty. 100,000 children out of poverty, despite the worst excesses of an austerity government down that road. So the SNP are doing fine, thanks, and the people are appreciative of the social contract that they have with the SNP government. And we as activists have to ensure that people are aware of the advantages of an SNP government. Thanks, brothers. See it, log it out the door to the food banks. So, it was a feisty affair. But the First Minister gave as good as he got. Every time the First Minister was trying to put Geisler correct, of course, he did the usual stunt. Don't let the public hear the truth, so interrupt. Wow. And of course, Jamie Hepburn, the Independence Minister, is also rolled out after Saturday's can't call it a conference meeting, campaign meeting in Perth. And he's pinned by Gary Robertson on the idea of wiping the Tories out. And Gary says to him, that's anti-democratic. Who are the Tory voters going to vote for? And I could hear the confusion. Didn't need to see the guy's face. It was radio after all. It was on GMS. You see, you could tell that Hepburn was absolutely stunned at what this idiot was saying. Anti-democratic. Nobody's saying that Tories can't pick candidates up. What the SNP are saying is let's wipe them out. Anti-democratic. They'll still pick candidates up. It's a competition. It's a matter of who wins. But I mean, this line of questioning to Jamie Hepburn, is it no anti-democratic not to somebody for Tories to vote for? There will be somebody for him to vote for. If anybody wants to vote for the slime balls. Wow. Absolutely mental. But the point that was being made was I mean, I don't well, to be fair, I'm not sure on the point that was being made. The Tories will put candidates up. The SNP intend to ensure the candidates don't win. A vote for the SNP isn't just a vote for independence. A vote for the SNP is also a vote to get rid of fucking Tories. So, and this idea that the Tories are some sort of threat, they are in certain seats for the SNP. But that's it. It's up to the electorate to decide. Tories will field candidates. Where this idiot was coming from, Gary Robertson, I have no idea. But I can tell you why they're worried about the Tories being wiped out here in Scotland. Because that'll be one cheek of the establishment's arse gone from our nation. And they know that when that one cheek of the arse is gone, the other cheek of the arse will no be long and follow. And we'll be rid of them altogether. No more cuckoos in the nest. That's what's worrying the establishment. A Tory wipeout in Scotland delegitimises the establishment. Duncan, that is absolutely stunning, mate. Thanks. The SNP does a good job considering they've got both hands behind their backs. How much better can we do with all the financial levers? Well, even with just some of them, as we know, the Royal Bank of Scotland purchasing index managers index was out last week, and it shows that Scotland's economy, despite everything, is still growing, and that we have the lowest unemployment figures in the UK. Another 100,000 people unemployment, and that's no seasonal stuff. That's adjusted properly. So, what we could do with all the fiscal levers and control over the economy, living standards would get much, much better, I can assure you that. But as I say, this idea that the Tories being wiped out in Scotland, it scares the shite out of them. And listening to that interview on Sunday morning on GMS, as I sat with my cup of coffee, I was taking deep breaths, and given that I love the smell of fucking establishment fear in the morning, so the establishment is frightened that Scotland will kick out one of the cuckoos in the nest, because once we've cleared out one cheek of the establishment's arse, the other will fall quite quickly. So, and if the SNP want to use a second slogan to go with the first one, and they think it will encourage more people to vote SNP, I'm all for it. And why the state broadcasters got a problem with that? Well, obviously, as I say, you said they want cheek of the arse. That's the problem. It's frightened. It's frightened that when we do away with one of the political parties up here, we'll do away with another one. Thanks, Lauren. Thank you very much. You've all been very generous today so far, folks. Thank you. Right, Green MSP Maggie Chapman is calling for caps on the amount any individual or organisation can give to a political party. This comes in the light of the Tories having received up to 15 million from Frank Hester, the racist gang. Right. Now, Maggie Chapman points out that these people are no gain political parties money for nothing. She points out that they're giving money to these political parties for power and influence. Well, what is 15 million quid vote Frank Hester? 135 million of government contracts with NHS England. That's what it's for. As Maximilian Robespierre keeps saying in his channel, the best investment you could make is go down to your bank manager, borrow 10 grand and go and buy your local Tory MP. And then sit back and wait for a contract to come through in the post. So, as Maggie's pointed out, and as we all know, these super rich people who are buying power and influence in our political system are doing it for a reason. And the best way to cut that out, Maggie thinks, is to cap donations made by persons or organisations to political parties. Me, I would go one further. I would have them funded by the public purse and not allow them to raise private campaign money. That would level out our politics and it would take the corruption out of the politics. But as I say, a fine example of a corruption in politics. Frank Hester gives the government 15 million. Frank Hester gets 135 million in NHS contracts. Good investment, I would say. 15 million to the Tory party, Tories in government, you got 135 million and a government contracts in return. Wow, good investment. Max is right. Go borrow 10 grand for your bank manager and invest it in the Tory party while they're still in government. I hope you get your contract through before they get voted out. But Maggie, as I say, she's right. We need to sort this out. And we now see that the Labour Party is more or less funded the same way as the Tory Party do, with all the unions having disaffiliated from the Labour Party and they're cutting funding to the Labour Party. So I would like to see the parties given public funds only and based on the size and the membership of the party. Simple as that. Simple as that. Right, let's move on. The Scottish Government is being urged to make a scrapping of peak rate fares in Scotland permanent. Now, folks, as you know, there is no peak rate fares in Scotland at the moment, and there won't be any peak rate fares up until June 28th, when the pilot that have been running since last October till now comes to an end. Now, the pilot was due to end at the end of March. It's been extended to the end of June. Now, Transport Scotland have said that they're going to look at the data and see if it's feasible. But all the main railway unions, which makes sort of sense, are left, the TSSA and the RMT, they all want the scrapping of these peak rates being made permanent. Along with dozens of others who have been writing to the Transport Minister about this. All right, where we go? Who else has written to them? Friends of Air, the Just Transition Partnership, Stop Climate Chaos Scotland, and Transport Scotland. They all want this changed. Now, what the real unions are saying, and what the STUC are saying, that's the Scottish Trade Union Congress, they're saying that peak rate fares are an unfair tax on the working classes, because the peak rates are normally when the working classes are going to work in the morning, when they're coming home in the evening. Now, as I say, Transport Scotland says they will have a look at it when the pilot comes to an end. They'll see if the data shows any change in people's behaviours when it comes to moving about, and they'll also see if it's financially sustainable. I think if people have been taking advantage of this the fact that there's no peak rates anymore, and the amount of people going on to train goes up, then I think it's worth doing. Thanks, Geordie. Thanks very much. Now, say, me personally, I think it'd be a great idea to be able to say at the end of this trial that it has changed people's travelling arrangements, and it has increased the amount of people on the railway. Then that way it will be financially sustainable going forward. You know, so folks, there is no peak rate up until June. Use a train. If you can use a train, use a train. The more people use a train, the better chance there is of keeping peak rates off our railway tracks. So the Scottish Government, as I say, they're under pressure to make the transition permanent, but Transport Scotland says they'll look at it once they've got all the data in, which is the right thing to do. But we'll get 3 more months to convince them, folks. So Davey will be taking a few trains in the next 3 months and all. Just to increase the number on the railways. Next time we get to Glasgow for something, I'll park in Airdrie and I'll get the train. Right. And I see George Carrot again. Kavanagh has been writing in the National about devolution and how the Scottish Government, the Northern Irish Assembly and the Welsh Government should make a pact to exert pressure on Westminster for more powers, more devolved powers. Now, this comes after Gordie Brown was dug out his crypt again. This time, but not to tell Scotland what it should settle for, but to tell Wales what it should settle for. So Gordie's pulled out his crypt, given a dusting down to tell Wales you don't need any more devolution, that your legal system, your transport system, your courts, justice are all better in the hands of Westminster. What Gordon did recommend was devolved to Wales, was what do they call it? The service that keeps an eye on prisoners when they're released in early from jail. The probation service, that's what they call it, the probation service. Apparently, Wales should get the devolved power over the we have prisoners who have been released, the probation service. Now, Mark Drakeford had commissioned the Archbishop of Canterbury to look into this, and he recommended that transport, justice, the courts, policing, fiscal powers were all transferred to Wales. Now, the idea that Caravan has got, as long as we're in the union, we should be using the other two partners, or we should be working in conjunction with the other two partners for more powers for the Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish assemblies. I get where George is coming from. But Starmer's not devolving nothing to nobody. Has George not been paying attention? Starmer's a fucking control freak. We see that in the way he's running the Labour Party. We've seen that with the way he leaned on the Speaker of the House of Commons twice, not just once. Leaned on them to change the rules on the SNP opposition day, and leaned on the Speaker to ignore Diane Abbott during PMQs. Now, as I say, the idea of strong arm and more powers out of Westminster, the three devolved nations teaming up and making demands for more devolution to Westminster. I'm not against the idea. I'm just against the idea devolution altogether. I'm for independence. All for independence, flat out for it. No interest in devolution at all. Devolution, as far as I'm concerned, is a failed experiment. Why is it a failed experiment? Because we voted for home rule and they gave us devolution. We didn't get any fucking say in it. So what is the power that George wants them to devolve to Scotland? The economy. He wants full fiscal powers and control of workers' rights and the economy. There's absolutely no chance that Starmer will allow any further divergence here in Scotland. Same way the Tories are not allowed any further diversion here in Scotland. Because if the Scottish Parliament does get horns on the levers of the economy, then they will make Scotland a far better place. They've already been doing it with devolution. We've spoken about social contract here many times. Imagine what they could do with the full powers. Right, but Canavan's wasting his time. Wasting his time. Starmer's not devolving nothing to anybody. When Gordie Brown was dragged out his crypt to commission a work on saving the Union and constitutional changes for the UK, when Gordie Brown wanted it out of Starmer, Starmer stuck it in the shredder. Out the window, not interested. Absolutely not interested. So, I get where George is coming from, but he's wasting his breath because he hasn't been paying any bloody attention, obviously. Aye, Stevie, Starmer was under a instruction for Israel. He'd been on the day that they scuppered the SNP opposition day motion, he'd been speaking to the President of Israel. So, as I say, obviously George, who penned this piece for the National, hasn't been paying any bloody attention. Starmer's a control freak, and he's definitely not going to devolve any more powers to Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland. He's even said that he'd campaign against Northern Ireland leaving the UK, when that would be a breach of the Good Friday Agreement. Starmer is an underhanded control freak. So anybody that thinks there's going to be any more devolution under this guy is wrong. Starmer's anti-devolution. He's another Tory, remember. Right, moving on. Let's move down that road. It would appear that CBeebies are in trouble. Ofcom has ruled that 5 TV news shows on the channel presented by Tory MPs broke the rules on impartiality. It was section 5.1 and section 5.4 of the code. Now, what's the penalty? That's what I'd like to know. Because I've read the headlines. I've had a look at the articles. You know, the papers are reporting this. They just tell me what the bloody penalty is. What's happening to GPPs for its breach of impartiality rules when it comes to broadcasting news? What was the fine? What was the sanction? I haven't seen any. Any you see any of them? So, naughty GBEs, carry on doing what you're doing. You know, you broke the rules. What's Ofcom for? Fucking hopeless. So, they've decided there has been 5 breaches in partiality rules. What are they doing about it? Are they going to take their licence? Hopefully they'll go the same way as a Top TV, which is now nothing more than a YouTube channel, I believe. You know? So by the time they shut the bloody thing down, it's full of right-wing nutters. And it probably will shut down actually once the Tories get a tank in at the next election, to be fair. You know? So there you go. Right-wing lunatic news programme, which I don't watch, broke the rules 5 times. Don't see any sanctions against them. Right, and apparently Sunak's under pressure as well down that road, as the right-wing loonies in his party want to oust him before the general election and replace him with another right-wing loony, Penny Morgan, you know, the sword woman. Yeah, the one that wants to put Scots onto ships and sell them into slavery. That one. Anyway, apparently the letters have been flying into the 1922 committee, and Sir Graham Brady had Sunak in for a word last week. Now, there's no sure how many letters have went in, but Mordaunt's distanced herself for the comments. Kimmy Badenoch's come out and tell them to behave themselves, so the threat must be there. Will Sunak survive? Don't know, see. Brady called him in for a word last week, and apparently he's facing the full 1922 committee on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. I guess he's going to try and convince them that he should stay and lead into the next election. Don't know why. Looking at the polls, he's losing his seat. Surely they'd want somebody in a safe Tory seat to lead them into the next election. Is Mordaunt in a safe Tory seat? Somebody can look it up, stick it in the comments. I hadn't looked. But that's a right racist picture. And I don't mean I'm going to get pulled up for being rude here. But we've seen the racism come out here in that parliament. Oh, Cromwell had the right idea. That sort of thing. Sell the Scots into slavery. Problem with Scotland, as far as Penny's concerned, is there's too many Scots in it. So, not a good day for Sunak yesterday or last week, but he's not been having a good time at all. You know, he announces that the economy's turned the corner, and what happens? The OBR and the IFS comes out and tells us we're in a recession, along with the Office for National Statistics, tell us we're in a recession. And apparently they've got a plan, they're sticking to the plan's working, they're just no fucking willing to tell any of us what the plan is. Anybody got a Scooby what this plan is? And apparently Tories have now admitted that their Rwanda scheme and gimmick will actually only send 150 people to Rwanda. It's cost over 400 million quid so far. What's that? About 2.2 million a head for 150 people. They give me 2.2 million. Fuck off. Ah, dearie. 400 million quid sparked up against the law. Rwanda's only going to accept 150. 150 people off for small boats. There's 40,000 arriving a year. Oh, the mind boggles. They wonder the waste to the public purses went up by 25% since this lot went into power. Sorry, 400% since this lot went into power. Waste to the public purse through through the government prior to this lot coming to power in 2019 was about 5 billion a year. Now it's 25 billion a year. And of course, the loony press are getting battered right into Labour at the moment with their school plan, aren't they? Their VAT-owned fees for private schools. Now, according to the Telegraph's headlines, Labour charging VAT-owned private school fees will cost the public purse 1.6 billion quid. With a quarter of those who are now in the private school systems migrating into the public school system. They're saying the cost to the public school system will be 1.6 billion a year going forward, because these people won't be going to private school. Now, what's interesting about that is if it's going to cost 1.6 billion, then Labour's in trouble with their funding plans. Because according to what we're being told from the Office of National Statistics and the Office for Budget Responsibility and the Institute for Fiscal Studies, Starmer's tax is only going to raise 1.3 billion, and he spent it about 7 times out. In the public sector, in the public school sector, that's what you want to raise the money for. So if the tax is only raising 1.3 billion, but the influx of people leaving the private sector, you go into the public sector, is going to cost 1.6 billion. Wow. Taxing the private schools is going to cost the public purse 300 million quid. Now, to be fair, the study was done by the Adam Smith Institute, which is a right-wing think tank. Right? But that's what they're saying. A quarter of those who attend private schools now wouldn't be able to afford to attend private schools, so they will be forced into the public sector. And the cost of that influx of people into the public sector will be 1.6 billion a year for a tax that's only raising 1.3. That's typical Westminster economics for you. Fucking nuts. No wonder the public purse is burst. No wonder. But I mean, let's face it, they just blew 800 billion through the pandemic and nobody's got a Scooby where the money went. Well, we do know where it went. Ended up in the hands of the 25% richest people here in the UK. But if the elite and the super rich keep taking the way they're taking, then we grow in inequality and growing very fast. Very soon people will get fuck all left. We're heading for a third world economy here, folks. I mean, if you take Sunak, worth 700 million quid, his passive income after that is 30 million quid a year. What do you think he's doing with that 30 million quid a year? He's buying fucking assets. Who's he buying the assets of? Those who are going bust because of their bad handling and the lack of redistribution of wealth. If we don't tax the rich soon, they'll have everything and we'll have nothing. We're already seeing hedge funds getting into being landlords, buying up huge swathes of housing stocks that Joe Bloggs can't afford to buy and get into the rental market with them. We're seeing banks renting out the properties that they're repossessing. If we don't stand up and say enough is enough and start taxing the super rich, we're going to fuck all away. No wonder people and the government are going bust. And I mean going bust. 2.3, 2.7 trillions of debt now. If we don't redistribute the wealth and stop the greed of the super rich, we're going to have nothing left, folks. Wealth inequality has grown as fast as it's ever went. Ever. Since 2020, wealth inequality has been mental. And that's because the super rich are skinning us. And you're right, BlackRock building homes in the UK to rent. Yeah, the hedge funds are getting into it. And they're not just building. They're actually buying up the stuff that people can't afford to buy, that contractors have built, developers have built. Because, as we know, the kids can't get a mortgage. So see, if we don't redistribute the wealth, it's another reason for getting away from Westminster. It's another reason for capping donations to political parties. Stop the power and influence and stop the money fleeing government coffers into the pockets of the rich. Let's take it back out of the rich's pockets and put it back to work for the public the way it's bloody supposed to. Let's get a land tax. Let's get a wealth tax. Because if we don't redistribute wealth, we are looking at a third world country. This is serious now. 800 billion quid's been transferred from the public purse to the super rich since 2020. 800 billion quid. We need that money back. We need independence so we can put a proper tax regime in fucking place. So, there you go. Apparently Labour's tax on school fees is going to end up costing the public purse 300 million quid. That's the sort of economics we expect from Westminster. The economics of the fucking stupid. You think Labour would have done a study into this before they come up with a fucking idea? Mental. Absolutely mental. Now, it would appear that Putin has been declared the winner of the Russian election. Anybody here surprised that Putin's won the Russian election? No, me neither. You know, nobody wants the job of being an opposition leader out there. Opposition leaders in Russia have got a habit of dying of mysterious causes. It's not a safe occupation to be an opposition politician in Russia. So, anybody surprised that Putin won? Nah. Apparently took 86% of the popular vote. 86%. You're right, Stella. Gary's Economics on YouTube is an interesting watch. A very interesting watch. I have to say, I agree with a lot of what the guys had to say. I really do. But so, Putin has won a landslide in Russia. That doesn't bode well for the people of Ukraine. There it does. No real. But, you know, as I say, who would be an opposition politician in Russia? It's not exactly what you call a safe occupation. They keep mysteriously dying, falling out of windies and getting cancer for dodgy cups of tea. So, nobody's really surprised about what's happening in Russia and Putin winning the election in Russia. There was no competition. A sham. And, of course, I say that will not be good for Ukraine. And that's what the story, the headlines are on the Ukraine situation. No choice for Ukraine. More Putin means more war. And Putin claims landslides scorns US democracy. Macron, he went from a dove to a hawk on Russia, apparently. And apparently there's secret clashes going on to counter Russian brainwashing in occupied Ukraine. And the Ukrainians have been striking directly into Russia with drones. So, things are not going well for Ukraine. The Ukrainians are battling frostbite, lack of and shortage of shells. The fight's not going well. It's the middle of winter. Although winter is coming to an end, as far as they're concerned. Now, what's going on in Gaza? But what's going on in Gaza is that Israel are committing more war crimes, folks. Israel forces raid Gaza al-Shifa hospital. Now, Israel are claiming that the hospital is a hotbed of Hamas activity. Now, there are thousands and thousands of people sheltering in that hospital complex. Now, Israel have claimed that they're not targeting a health infrastructure. They're lying. They are targeting health infrastructure. And that's a war crime to target a hospital. Undeniably a war crime. But no voices of discontent or no voices of anger to hear in the West. What we're seeing for doing that road is outrageous. The House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers. And all this because their backers, the political parties' backers, and the military-industrial complex and their allies in Israel own the political parties or finance them through Tories friends, Conservative Friends of Israel and Labour Friends of Israel. But there is no doubt that what's happening against the Al-Shifa Hospital right now is a war crime. An absolute war crime. You know, there's also a story here about a baby born on the 7th of October in Gaza who's struggling to stay alive because of the lack of food. And apparently, this week, Hezbollah and the IDF get closer to war. And the Houthis are more or less permanently shipping. And now they've started in the Indian Ocean, apparently, the Houthis. So the situation out there is not great. Not great at all. And it's the deafening silence here. It brings us all shame. We are complicit. Europe is complicit in genocide. The UK is complicit in genocide. America is complicit in genocide. Australia is complicit in genocide. Canada is complicit in genocide. And make no mistake here, folks, this is genocide. We can see it with our own eyes. We can see it every single day in social media. No matter what our news outlets are telling us, and there is definitely a perceived bias towards Israel in our media, and the Palestinian people are being dehumanized in our media to make us complicit or to make us compliant. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is every single weekend in all the major cities across the UK, there have been protests. The politicians have got this wrong and it's going to cost them dearly. It's going to cost them dearly. The only political party who's got this right is the SNP. As was pointed out by James O'Brien in his podcast at the weekend, saying that if there's one thing that's made Humza Yusuf famous across these islands at least, is his stance on the genocide in Gaza. And Humza calls it out for what it is. It is a genocide. And because of the two cheeks to the same arse down that road, we are all complicit. And that's sore. Now you're right, out the door in 24. And that's a sore one. Especially for ex-servicemen like myself. As an ex-serviceman, folks, I'm going to tell you that what you're witnessing isn't a war. What you're witnessing is a slaughter. Israeli troops are slaughtering women, children, and unarmed men in jeans and flip-flops. That is the truth of it. As an ex-serviceman, it turns my stomach. I'd like to get a grip of Sunak and Stammer and batter their heads off each other. But it wouldn't do any good. They'll still kowtow to the Israeli lobby and the vast military-industrial complex here in the UK, which is making a fucking mint out of feeding two wars. And I see they won't answer questions on why we've got a lot of Israeli military personnel and aircraft landing on these islands. They won't tell us what's going on. We know it's happening. They must be here to pick up ammunition and weapons. But, as I say, the political parties will kowtow to the Israeli lobby and they'll kowtow to their masters in the vast military-industrial complex here. Trading of weapons is a massive, massive industry in the UK. And we need to put a stop to that. It's a massive industry here in Scotland, actually. But weapons produced should be produced for us and for our own defence. Simple as that. But, as I say, Israel are committing war crimes. And this attack in the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza is most definitely a war crime. There's no doubt about it. Right, folks, that's what I've got for you today. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it informative. I want to thank you all for your generous super chats today. Aye, Joey, you've heard there's weapons being flown out for Prestwick, have you? More likely to be aviation parts, actually. But it's a possibility. Munitions are made just up the road in Bishopton. So, it's a possibility. To say that's what I've got for you today, folks. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it informative. And I hope you enjoyed the delivery. Now, as I say, the other Davey will be back with me on Thursday, hopefully. That'll make life a wee bit easy. Yeah, or will it? That remains to be seen. And as I say, on Saturday, what's the date again? On Saturday, the 23rd of March at 12 noon, I'll be having a chat with Naz Anis Ma. Okay, hopefully I've got that right. So I would like you to tune in and we'll have a chat with Naz about his life in public service so far and what his ambitions are going forward. Okie dokie. Now this is an election year, folks. We can't let the opposition get a jump on us. Get out there, convince your friends, your family, everybody you know, to put their cross in the SNP box when this is called. And if you're affiliated to one of the other parties like Alpha or the Greens, save it. Save it for the Holyrood election. This one, hold your nose, eyes on the prize, crossing the SNP box. Because we want out the door. Out the door. So, I'll see you all on Thursday, and then again on Saturday. You guys have a nice day. Look after yourselves. Bye for